before I start chapter 1.6a, I wrote this note. Again, I'm trying to get all these assignments up at once for you so you can actually go and get ahead if you need to get some practice. By the way, there is going to be a extra assignment on your homework. Again, I hope you're listening, not just kind of have me on mute, but there will be an extra assignment on your homework, and that extra assignment will have probably all of the test questions on it. Of course, every time you take the test, it's randomized, but what it will allow you to do, and it'll only be available until Friday. So what it will allow you to do is, it'll be available till Saturday. So Friday at midnight is going to cut off. But it will allow you to actually go to the test questions, ask me questions on that assignment, and actually get help on it instead of having to go into this without knowing what's going on. So because I do like to do a review day, but the thing is, it is a reward, which means that if you don't have at least a 85% on all of your homework, then you cannot access the test review homework. So make sure that you are doing this and trying to get caught up on your homework, because again, I see people who are at low levels, people who haven't even done certain assignments. If you want access to the pretest, you need to make sure that you get 85 or higher on every assignment. Otherwise, you won't have access to anything at all. It's not going to hurt your grade, but again, it is a assignment that will help you prepare for the test. My quick thing is that the final question on this homework will not say correct. It is a actual test question that it has the answer, but the answer will not actually read appropriately. So just make sure that the answer that you have on the final question matches, and as long as it matches, you will be fine. I'm not going to count that point against you. I know your homework won't say 100%, but I will put a 100% in the book once I give you credit for it. But again, the final question will not say correct. It will always say you're incorrect. Just make sure you look at the answer and make sure that the answer matches what you have, and that is what you're looking for. Today's lesson is going to focus mostly on graphs of compound inequalities. The solving of compound inequalities is the same that you have seen this far. Again, it's just a question of whether your habits are strong enough to avoid minor errors. Two types of compound inequalities, that is and or. Again, you saw this last year, so we're just kind of bringing everything back. This is the one where you actually have two symbols, which means you have three sections. Remember, when you solve three sections, you simply work the same thing in all three sections. So if I was going to get x alone, I would add 4, but I would add 4 1, 2, 3 times. I will divide by 3, but I will divide 1, 2, 3 times. So that's the first thing you got to make sure you remember, is that whenever there are three portions, you work all three portions. I have the wrong pen here. And so you end up with 21 less than 3x less than or equal to 30. You will then divide by 3. Again, make sure you do that 3 times, and you end up with 7 less than x less than or equal to 10. And when you go to graph this, there are two important numbers now, 7 and 10. And you have to keep in mind that this x being between these numbers means that you want everything that is between these numbers. You look here and see that this is going to be an open circle attached to 7, a closed circle attached to 10, and then x is in the middle, so you will shade the middle. But again, and typically shades between. And I say typically because there are times that it doesn't. And could be a no solution situation. For example, if I want a number that is less than 3 and bigger than 5, it doesn't happen, because 4 is not less than 3 or bigger than 5. And even though 6 is bigger than 5, 6 is not less than 3. So if an and gets funny, they might flip it into a no solutions, but I don't think you'll see that in Algebra 2. That's typically in a calculus level or pre-calculus level course where they're trying to really be tricky. But again, just remember, and will typically shade between, and that's something that you might want to write down just to make sure you've got it. Or typically shades outsides, and what I think about when I see or is a boat. And I'm not a artist, but a boat. To row a boat, people have oars. Again, those are the oars. So oars usually on the outside of the boat, and that's typically what your graph is going to look like. But in oars, you actually solve them separately. I think we saw that before when we were doing absolute values. But again, divide by 3, 14 over 3 here, subtract 6, negative 10 here. Make sure you put the numbers in their proper order. So don't put 14 over 3 over here, because 14 over 3 is positive, which means negative 10 would be here. 14 over 3 would be there. Now looking at the picture, again, remember ORs, 14 over 3 is going to be a closed circle pointing to the right. Negative 10 is going to be an open circle pointing to the left, and I hope you see the ORs that you should remember whenever you see and and or in a problem. Again, and is usually in the middle, or is usually on the outside. There is one tricky problem that textbooks like to place in the work but not in the example, and that is this one. And the reason this is tough is because there is an N on the outside section and on the inside section, and you won't see this on your homework. You won't see this often, but again, you are 6 weight, which means that you are here because you're probably either talented or you're serious enough about math that you understand that this is getting you ready for a lot of tough stuff. So I don't feel right not exposing you to things I think you should know. So this question here, I would put a star by it for sure, but it's not that hard to do once you recognize what this represents. Pretty much, this is 3 sections. You can't work this out in 3 sections. What you want to do instead is ignore one section and then work that problem out. So I would turn that to n plus 6 is greater than 2n plus 5. Remember, this is an and because that's how they work there. That is and because they connect them. And then 2n plus 5 is greater than negative 3. And then work both of these out. Just remember it's an and, not an or, like what we usually see for those things, and you should be good. But again, you will subtract your n. You get 6 is greater than n plus 5. You'll subtract your 5, subtract your 5. 1 is greater than n. Over here you will subtract 5 again and divide by 2. Again, trust your instincts and hope that it works out. And what happens is, again, make sure you put the numbers in the proper order. So negative 4 goes here, 1 goes here. And notice something that we need to talk about, which is that n over here is on the wrong side, so I'm going to flip this around. Now notice 1 is over here pointing to the left, 4 is over here pointing to the right, and as I said, and usually shades the middle because you don't want anything outside of there, because you want it to be bigger than negative 4 and smaller than 1, so therefore you have to stay in the middle. So again, that and or understanding should help you out. Again, and is usually in the middle, or is usually like the oars on a boat, it's going to shade on the outside. But again, make sure you ask about whatever it is you need to ask about so that I can try to help you get better at this. Good luck.